This is the sixth session out of 12 complimentary sessions for A1 level German. This is the agenda. Let us start. Disclaimer. So far we have had, as I already said, this one is the sixth session. So we already had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And after this we will have 6 more sessions. Let's do a quick recap. So I will not be trying to go over each point, but what the purpose of this slide is that so that you are held responsible for what all you are supposed to be knowing by now. Okay, so you should be able to do all of these things by now. For example, you should know how to greet someone. The basic greeting that we all know is hello, but then there are other greetings as well. For example, guten Tag, guten Morgen, guten Abend, and for example, servus, moin, grüß dich. Then what is also important is that you know how to take leave from someone. Then you should be able to, so when it comes to grammar, you should know how to, where the verb is, the position of the verb in a simple sentence, that I mean here, and where is the position of the verb in a W word kind of question. For example, what, when, who, where, how, which. Then the same, where is the verb position for in a yes or no kind of question. Then you know about the personal pronoun. So in English, for example, you have ich, he, she, it. So in German we have er. For she it is sie. For es it is it. Sorry, for it is it's s. But also what's important here that you should remember is that, so also what is important is that in English you have you, right? But in German we have 4 different kinds of yous. So we have this capital SZ, which can mean 2 things. It can mean you are talking to just one person and you are being formal, or you are talking to more than one person and you are still being formal. Then you have this du, which also means you, but here you are talking to just one person and you are being informal. Then you also have this IHR, pronounced as ear, not as ear, it's ear. So this means you are talking to more than one person directly and you can be informal. And likewise, for example, by now you should be able to at least count. You should be able to, for example, let's say your salary is 54,000. That's too less. Let's say your salary is 64,225 brutto annual. So you should be able to say how to say this in German. So how you do it, that is, so you divide this number in small parts. So you have 60, let's say 64,225. What you do is you write it like this: 64,000 plus 200, then you have 25. So you say first this part, that is 64.225. 64.225. I hope you can say that. Also, what I want to focus today is, I don't know if I have it in the content, but I will just say it right now, is that if you happen to be in Germany, so you will notice that, for example, if I want to write 100, so it's in English it's written like this, in German it's also like this, but if I want to write 1000 in English, okay, so there is usually a comma when you're talking about currency. So they add commas after 1000, right, after 3 zeros. In German we don't add comma, we add point. As weird as it may look and sound, this is 1000 and not 1 point, okay, in German. Or let's say if you want to write in English a percentage, right, if you want to write 89.26 percentage. So to write this in German, you will have to write it like this. Again, this is not 89,26. It's not like, so this in German you will read this as, again, 89,26%. Okay, or you can also say 89,26%. So instead of saying point, people say comma in German. So likewise, if you want to say, let's say if you want to write this, say 1000.25 in English, so you will have to, like, where it's comma, you'll have to put a point, where it's point below, you'll have to put a comma. So this is English. In German, you will have to write it like this. Okay, this is not that important, I believe, but it's important so that you don't get confused. Many people don't even like observe this. I have some colleagues, when I told them that's how it is, they were surprised because they never noticed this. Okay, but yeah, you will notice this, I believe, so that because now you know about it. Also, you what is also important is that you know about modal verben. Okay, they are very important. You can just, why I say they are important is that they help you express many more things. So let's say if you want to say, uh, use the verb risen, right? This is travel, but with this you can just say one thing: I travel. Okay, maybe if you know the word gan, you can say I like to travel. Okay, but if you know the modal verben, there are 6 modal verben. Okay, and each of them can help you convey a different thing. For example, if you want to say I want to travel, right, so you can use the modal verb wollen. If you want to say I must travel for my work, must, you can use muss. Also you can say, so you can say müssen. Also if you want to say I have to, then also you can use müssen. But if you want to say I am allowed to travel, I hope you never have to say that, but let's say if you have to say I'm allowed to travel, so it will be dürfen. Then let's say if you want to say I should or I shall, then you have the verb sollen. Let's say if you want to say, like, you want to express like want to, but if you want to say a little bit politely or with less degree, if you want to make it like not a strong wish, then you can use the mögen, or you can use its conjunctive zwei, that is möchten. Again, the reason I'm focusing on modal verb is that you can take one verb and write 6 different sentences out of it, meaning completely different. All right, please go through this list. You will have this on the channel, and please, the idea is that you are held responsible so that you know what all you should be knowing by now, even though we had only 6 sessions so far, but you should be able to do all of this things in German language by now. Okay, so what you must learn today, I will not go over this. I will just start with the learning part. So what you should learn in the big, so you should learn, so there is, we have been, I think I have introduced many W word questions to you. For example, you have where meaning who, then you have was meaning what, then you have wie implying how, then you have welche implying which, then you have, I believe, let's say, then you have one, right? Today we'll focus on one because it's important. Why? Because it's very relevant to our lives. So it can help you say 2 things. It can help you say when is something happening. So you can, it can be a question where the answer is where the answer is a time. Okay, when is the session? When is this? When is your birthday? Then the other kind of questions can be requirement. So you say like when is this situation being fulfilled? Or for example, when can you take part in A2 sessions? So answer can be after you finish A1 sessions, right? So there the answer will be a condition. Why this is important is that it's very relevant to professional life. You know, when is the meeting? When is the seminar? When is the project deadline? Uh, when will the project be ready? Stuff like that. So why when do you need to use W word one? The answer is, which I already told you, there are 2 cases. The first case is you want to know at, during, up to, from, or which time, from which time period, time or time period something happens. Of course, it can be used for past as well. You can talk about when something happened instead of just saying when something will happen or when something happens, or also for future events. But so for until just now, we'll focus only about present tense. Okay. So other requirement can be when you want to know the requirement for something. When is when is something possible? Then basic syntax. Let's look at it. I think you should know this because if you know the syntax for a W kind of question, so it applies to all the W words. But I will go through it one time. So you at the second position, so you have, let's say you start with W word, then you can have other stuff in between. Other stuff implies a lot of things. For example, when you use the W word welche, you can also have, like when you say which, you also normally you have some nouns. If you want to say which languages do you speak, so that language is just after which. So welche Sprache. This is what I mean by dot 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 other things. Then of course you will have the verb which will be conjugated. Then you can have other things. Then you will have the subject usually, then other things, then of the object. Okay. Okay, let's look what we have next. Let's look an example. So wann ist dein Geburtstag? So wann is the W word, ist is the verb conjugated for third party, so ist. The actual verb is sein. So if you think you should know this, so the verb is sein. It is ich bin, du bist, es, sie ist. So we are using this one, third party. And you also have wir sind, ihr seid, and for every other thing you can just use sind. So here it is wann ist dein Geburtstag. Also Geburtstag is masculine, birthday, Tag, but here you are using possessive article and it is in nominative case, so dein. I hope you can follow that. Then the next sentence you can write is wann hast du Urlaub? Again, you should know the conjugation table for haben. So haben is the verb. In infinitive form, it is ich habe, du hast, es, sie hat, wir haben, ihr habt, and for small s, c, capital S, z, it's again haben. Then von wann bis wann hast du Urlaub? You know, from when to when do you have vacation? Or till when do you have vacation? Bis wann hast du Urlaub? Okay, there's a mistake over here. It should be, so that should be here. So there should be one more one. So from when till when do you have vacation? Okay, and if you can also write the sentence without the bis, then if you say von wann hast du Urlaub, it will mean from when do you have vacation. Then of course, let's look at the answers, I believe. So also what I want to say is that, you know, I think I already gave the, I mean, it's not that you will learn something new because you saw it on the last slide. So when you say wann, right, you can just use wann on its own in a sentence, but you can also use these words ab, bis, seit, von, and many others, I believe. So ab usually means onwards, you know, when you say ab wann, so onwards, what time, what day. Bis is till, seit is since. Okay, also at this point I want to talk about pronunciation. So you have this seit and then you have seit. In the beginning you might pronounce them like as, I mean, the pronunciation, there won't be any difference, but there is a difference. If you hear carefully what I'm going to say, so I'm saying seit and I'm saying seit, there is a difference. Okay, so this z is always this ts, seit. This is seit. Please practice this, record yourself, and you'll know the difference. If there's no difference, then you'll have to practice. So idea is that you can use these other words along with one. Then you want to other way to use W word is you want to know the requirement for something. So the one example is wann bist du bereit für German sessions at 2? This is a condition, right? Of course, answer can be a condition, can be a date. You know, you can also say after 2 months, you know, or you can just say after I pass A1 exam. So after I pass A1 exam is a requirement. After 2 months is just a date. So this is what I'm trying to say. Also, just now, I think maybe we'll learn this today. Few, when you use few, right now in A1, when you see few, you can think of the English for. Okay, but not always. As we continue, I'll tell you when not to think of few as for, but for now you can just think of few as for. Bereit means ready. Okay, then you have the other example, wann darfst du Auto fahren? Okay, here you notice I'm using a modal verb and I'm using the verb fahren. Because there is a modal verb, the other verb will not be conjugated. It's infinitive form, but you will conjugate the modal verb. So I believe you know this. The verb is dürfen. It is ich darf, du darfst, es, sie again, darf. Then you have ihr, dürft, and for every other pronoun it will be dürfen. So I think you could follow that. There can be other cases as well, guys, but these are the two situations where I use wann. If you know other situations where you can use wann in your daily life, professional life, social life, please let me know. Okay. Now, yes, let's look at the answers, how you can answer. So the way you answer a W kind of question, W1 question, depends on the context of the question, right? Is it a requirement or a date or a time period? So type 1 is like date or time period. So the answer can be a date, date range, time period, right? Date will be just one day, time will be just exact one time, range will be from this to this date, time period will be from this time to this time, and there can be other, right, etc. as well. I mean, etc. I mean, like, till what date, till what time, you know, or after which time, or till what time, onwards which time, such things. So examples: one has to Geburtstag, you can just say many people just say dry August. Now, if you say dry August, it's fine, but I mean, I will understand what you're trying to say, but it's grammatically not correct. So why? If you ask, because here it is in dative case. Why dative case? Because you are using the preposition. The preposition is an, and this is actually an them. And when you write on them, you can just simply write and what comes after these will be in dative case, and that's why dry becomes written August. For now, don't try to understand the grammar. Just so why I show this specific example is that quite often people ask you when is your birthday. Your colleagues will ask you, your friends will ask you, everybody asks you, your partner may ask you, someone you are seeing, they may ask you when is your birthday. So you should be able to say at least your birthday grammatically correct. If you don't say it, it's fine, but it's written August. Okay. Please, I think this was a homework, I think session 2, that you had to figure out how to say your birthday, on which day your birthday is. Then the other example can be, one can be in Studio, gegen 19 Uhr. So when you say 19 Uhr, it will be exactly at 7 p.m. But if you say gegen, it's around. Okay. How is this spoken? Gegen 19 Uhr. Okay. So you don't say gegen 19. I mean, you don't say, you can say gegen 19, but it's better if you add the word Uhr as well. Then how you may answer questions of type 2. It's usually a requirement. So a requirement or a condition. So, wann bist du bereit für German sessions? A2 nach dem German A1 sessions. So, nach is after German A1 sessions. And here we have den. Okay, I actually think it should be den, but I think it's also fine. I mean, it's actually den because here we have plural, so it should be den, I believe. Yeah. Then we have wann darf. Again, answer can also be a date, guys, but I think you get the point. Then other question can be wann darf man Auto fahren? Wann darf man Auto fahren? So it's again, you can also give the answer as a date, after 6 months when the training is done. Then, or you can give a condition, wann man die Fahrprüfung besteht. Okay, so when man die Fahrprüfung besteht. Please notice here you're using this when. It's something like, when you see if when, it's, you can think of the English if. Okay. Also, while we are on this topic, please, you don't have, so from 1 to 31, please learn these numbers. So 1 becomes ersten, 2 becomes zweiten, 3 becomes dritten, 4 becomes vierten, 5 becomes vierten, and so on. Then 11 becomes elften, and then 31st or 31 becomes 31. or 31. Depending on your city where you are living, how is it spoken. You don't have to remember the entire table, just remember the birthdays of at least your birthday and people who are relevant to you. Then also, if you did not ask me this question, so I will ask you, what is man? This is not this man, that means der man, which is a man, like, I hope you get the point. So this is Frau and this is man, but what is this man? So just man, and this means, so what does it mean? It means, so whenever English we say, right, so we want to say one must not smoke in the office, right? One must exercise regularly. So whenever you want to say one, one, not as a number but as a noun, so you can use man, right? And so what it means, one, and when to use whenever you want to say one. Then let's, yeah, this is, I hope you have tolerance for my humor. So if you thought irregular verbs were difficult, then I'm happy to introduce trennbare Verben to you. And so we'll look at what are trennbare Verben, why do you need to know them, how should you use them, syntax, which syntax, then how can you, so the last two ones are, you don't have to know them, but because this is a German session, it's my job to at least make sure that you have heard of these two questions and the answers as well. So let us start with before I do that, what are trennbare Verben? So trennbare Verben are nothing but they are verbs. Of course they are verbs. But these verbs are made up of two parts. So there is this first part. Let me draw it here. So you have the first part, prefix, and then you have the verb as well. Okay. So these are trennbare Verben, and this prefix is separable. What do I mean by that? For example, you have lesen, right? So this means to read. Then there is this verb vorlesen, right? They both mean the same, but when you can use vorlesen when you are reading to someone. Let's say you read a night bedtime story to your kid, so you're reading to your kid. There vorlesen is more accurate to use than lesen. When you use it, depending on the case, you will have to use, so you only conjugate this part and this is not, so this is separated. We'll look at the examples. It becomes much clearer over there. Or when someone asks you, no one is going to ask you, but let's say if you are thinking what are trennbare Verben, these are verbs which have a separable prefix. So they have a prefix and the prefix is separable. That is why trennbare, so separable Verben, verbs. Okay, why do you need to know them? One answer is like you have to. It's part of the language. But why? How I think of it is that they make you say so many things. They make you so many. If you follow me on LinkedIn, you will. I recently posted about it. That, for example, you can take this verb geben, right? It means to give, and you can use this word geben to say at least. I knew of 10 different things, but then a German native speaker, he told me that okay, you can say 10 more things. So together we realized you can say at least 20 different things by just using geben. But of course you will have to add prefix to it. For example, geben means to give, but then if you add an to it, you will be surprised what angeben means. Angeben means to boast or to brag. It's like, let's say if I start saying, I'm the best guy to learn German from, that will be bragging or boasting. So angeben means to boast or brag. Then if you add this one auf to it, aufgeben, it will mean completely different. It will mean to give up, give up. Then if you add, for example, this one, zurückgeben, this is not that different from geben, but so geben means to give, zurückgeben will mean to give back. Okay, for example, and then you have abgeben. It's also not that different from geben, but geben means to give, abgeben means to submit or to hand in. Okay, so let's say you're leaving your company, so you will have to hand over your equipments, right? You can say I'm giving my equipments, but the correct way to say it is you are handing your equipments, handing over your equipment. So there, abgeben is more correct. Similarly, there are many ways to use. So what I'm trying to say is, we need to know them. The one answer is you have to know them because that's part of the language. But the other one is that they help you say many more things. That is the beauty about German language, is that you can take one verb and you can use it in many different ways. So you can take geben, you can learn geben, and then you can say 10 to 20 different things by just knowing the one verb. That's how beautiful the language is. Then let's look at, so yeah, these are the answers. What are they? They are verbs with separable prefix, and prefix usually changes the meaning of resulting verb. Then, so let's look at how the meaning changes. For example, you know the verb machen, right? So machen means to do, to make, used very commonly in German language. But if you add the prefix auf to it, so if you are saying Auf is not a part of here. I mean, it should be here, right? But with the verb. So the verb is actually aufmachen. You're wondering, okay, why is it not with it if it's part of the verb? But it is part of the verb. It is a prefix, but it is separable. So it has been separated out and used at the last position. So machen means to do, but here in this, so I hope you know what die Tür means. It's the door. Ich mache die Tür auf. This means, take a guess. It means to open the door. Okay. So aufmachen you can use when you are opening the door, opening the windows, stuff like that. Then if you, instead of auf, if you use zu, it means just the opposite, to close. Okay. Ich mache die Tür zu implies I close the door, or I'm closing the door. Okay. But here you notice, so I'm using, so here aufmachen is together, and notice here it is aufmachen and not like here it was mache, because auf was just left out and it machen was conjugated for ich, so it becomes ich mache, right? Let me just do it very quickly. So we have the verb machen. Let's try to conjugate it. So ich mache, du machst, es, sie macht, ihr also macht. For every other pronoun it will be machen. So here, because you have a modal verb, you only conjugate the modal verb, and other verb you, or the normal verb, you have it in its infinitive form, right? So können Sie die Tür aufmachen? What? So you might think, oh, können is not conjugated. It's conjugated. It's just that for Sie it remains in infinitive form. Then können Sie die Tür zumachen? I hope you could follow until here. So why do you need to know them? I hope I have answered that question, and now you can also answer that question to yourself and convince yourself why you need to know them, and of course learn them. Then how should you use them? Let's look at the syntax. So we will look at these 4 examples which we just saw. So let's make some space so that we can add the grammar part to it. So if you notice, so how do you write a normal sentence? So you start with subject, and you have the verb, you conjugate it, and then you have the object, right? It's the same for a trennbare verb. It's just that you conjugate only the verb part, not the prefix part. The prefix you just move to the last position. Okay, you don't have to conjugate it. So the verb is aufmachen. The verb is aufmachen. This is the prefix. You take it and keep it at the last position. Machen, the other one, is you conjugate it for the subject. Here, ich mache die Tür zu, same. The prefix you took at the, you separated it from the verb, you put it at the last position, you conjugate only this part for the given subject. This is, the banners are just saying what I just said. You conjugate this part, prefix at the last position, conjugate the verb, prefix at the last position. Here in, when you have, so I'm doing some kind of cheating, not cheating, but I should just, after telling you how to, what the syntax looks like for a trennbare verb in a normal sentence, normal I mean just one verb, I should tell you how the syntax looks like when you have a verb, and then you have also a trennbare verb, and you also have a modal verb, but I think you can follow. So what you will do is that you will not, so what you will do is that, so for example, if you want to say I should or I want to open the door, so you will say ich, right? And what you want to say, open the door, so because you have a modal verb, you only conjugate that part. This one you keep it in infinitive form, so prefix and everything together. Then you, so I want to, so let's say I want to say wollen, so wollen becomes will for ich, then the object, the Tür. So ich will die Tür aufmachen, ich will die Tür zumachen. And how the syntax looks like for in a yes or no kind of question. So again, so how do you do it for with modal verb in a verb? The verb is in the infinitive form at the last position. At the first position you have the modal verb conjugated for the subject, and then you can have the object. The same story follows here as well. The blue banners will just say the same thing. So here at the last position, you have the verb, trennbare verb in its infinitive form here as well. And the verb, the modal verb is conjugated at the first position in a yes or no kind of question. In the second position, or the just after the modal verb, you have the subject. And in between you can have object. So in between you can have the object. Again, you can also have thus fancied over here. It's still fine. So what to remember is that in just a normal, let's say you're only using trennbare verb without modal verb, so the prefix will go to the last position and you only conjugate the rest of the verb. With a modal verb, the entire trennbare verb is its infinitive form. Okay. So now the next two parts, as I said, they are not that important for you to know. I mean, it's important for teachers to know that, but let's see. I mean, I want you to have heard of them. So how you may identify a trennbare verb when you hear it for the first time. Again, even when I, let's say, I mean, now I don't have to actually actively like most of the things that I hear on our daily life from fellow German speakers. I mean, I have heard them before, because people repeat themselves. I mean, maybe when I'm watching a movie, I will hear some new verb that I have not heard, but most of the times in daily life, I hear the same things again and again. But let's say if you hear some verb for the first time, right, and it is in this form: subject, modal verb, then you have the object, and then you have the verb, trennbare verb, right? So if it's in trennbare verb, the prefix will be together, right, and the verb. So you can't figure out whether it is, just by reading it, you can't figure out whether it is separable or inseparable, right? How you can do that is how the person is reading it. If it is being emphasized, if the prefix gets emphasized as if it is a separate part, then of course it is a trennbare verb. So this is what the answers will say. So how to identify a trennbare verb when you hear it for the first time? If the prefix gets emphasized, then it is a trennbare verb. If the prefix does not get emphasized, then it is not a trennbare verb. Okay, what does this mean? Prefix does not get emphasized, it's not trennbare verb. That means there will be verbs. So for example, given, I told you, right? So I said when you can add an to it, you can add auf to it, you can add zurück to it, and many of it, right? Then, but if you add be to it, no, I think not be, but if you add to it, ergeben, right? So this is still a prefix, but it's not separable. So ergeben means something else. It actually sich Akkusativ ergeben. Please check what it means. Okay, so here it is not separable, is what I'm trying to say. So, and how not to mistake a verb. So of course, then you will see, and how not to mistake a verb with inseparable prefix for a trennbare verb. So you might see verbs where you will have a prefix, and how you can make sure that you don't confuse these verbs with trennbare verb. So there are some. One is that, like, check whether the prefix is getting emphasized when spoken. But if you just look at it on a piece of paper or on your phone, how do you do that? So there are some tricks. So the first trick is, so whenever you see a verb with one of these, like a prefix from this list, ab, an, auf, aus, bei, ein, los, mit, nach, her, hin, vor, weg, weg, zu, zurück, you can take a calculated guess and you will be right most of the times that it is a trennbare verb. Okay, for example, as I said, abgeben, nachgegeben, that means to yield, zurückgeben. Then you have zugeben, which means to agree. Then you have ausgeben, which means to spend money, of course. Then you have eingeben, which means to enter data. Then let me see. Aufgeben, I think to give up. But then there will be prefixes, so which will not be separable. Right, as I said, ergeben. Here it is not separable. Okay, so it's not trennbare. So ergeben is not a trennbare verb. Then of course there are always outliers, exceptions. So Durchgeben, sorry, yeah, durchgeben, I think there is this, not sure what it means. I think it means to like let pass through or transmit, right? Übergeben, it means to like vomit. Okay, here it is not separable. Okay, I believe that's it. So what I'm trying to say is that sometimes, for example, I think here it is separable, durchgeben, and the reason I'm focusing on geben, so don't think geben is the only which can be used as a trennbare verb and combined with prefixes. There are many other verbs, right? For example, you have arbeiten, right? So arbeiten is to work. When you have bearbeiten, it means to edit. Notice be here, so not separable, inseparable. Then you will have verbs where you will see douche and you might think, okay, whether it is separable or inseparable, you never know. So when you douche, when combined with some verbs, is separable. When combined with other verbs, it's not separable. The same applies to the other four as well. If you know other tricks like other prefixes, that we can fit in one of these lists, please let me know. So as I said, these hints are useful when you are beginning to learn German. Let's say if I were you, if I learn, let's say if, as in, one idea is that you start journaling about your life in German, and let's say if you write something in English and then you're looking for the German verb, what you do is you go to Leo, right? Leo.org, and there, it will tell you whether it is separable or not. I don't actually have to use this list, but just for the sake of completion, you should have heard of these things. All right, let's look at learn to use the preposition few in sentences and questions. So you can think it of as for, the English for now, but not always. So this is what this sentence is saying, but as I said, you can think it of English for, but it will not be a very good idea in the long term. So one example, das Geschenk ist für ihn. I hope you know what it means. Geschenk means gift, das because it is bestimmte article we are using, and it is neutral. Ist is sein, so sein for das Geschenk is für ihn. So if you notice, it's ihn. If you know what ihn is, it's, so you have er, right? So he, if you want to say him, you can say ihn or ihm. You say ihm, so they both mean ihn and ihm, they both mean him usually, but this one is dative, this one is accusative. I don't get scared of dative and accusative. Let me just talk about it right now. So when we start to learn German, we get confused, like when is dative, when is accusative, when is nominative, right? So the verb sein, when you're using the verb sein, the object is almost always nominative, right? Then the question is, what about the like 1,000 or 10,000 other verbs? How do I know which one is dative, which one is accusative? The answer is very simple. In daily life, we just need to know like a handful of, when I say handful, I'm talking in hundreds, right? So in daily life, there are just 50 to 70 verbs. When you use them, the object will be in dative case. For all the other 1,000, 2,000 verbs that you will use in that daily life, the object will be in accusative case. So your life is now easier. You don't have to worry about it. So sein, you don't have to remember. So when you're using sein, the object will be in nominative case. You just have to find out which these verbs are. And if you don't know them, please attend the sessions. I will tell you which ones they are. For example, there is one example is helfen. You're using helfen, the object will be in dative case, So you only need to know 49 to 69 more verbs which force the object to be in dative case. So you don't have to learn all the accusative verbs. You just have to learn all the dative verbs. And whenever you see a verb which does not belong to this list, you can assume it to be accusative. So it's inversion. So you don't. I hope you get the idea. Okay. So das Geschenk is für ihn. So him. Then if you want to, let's look at the grammar. So first position subject, second position verb, and conjugated for the subject. Then few is preposition, is before the object, and at the last position you have the object. And if the object happens to be an article, then it should be in accusative form. Here it's an article. So if you want to define it, it is accusative masculine pronoun. Okay, and this rule holds true even if the object contains an article and a noun. If you want to say the gift is for the man, so you will say man. You have the object and then you will have the article right there, but not there, because what comes after few will be an accusative case, so they will become then. So this syntax, or the syntax that you just saw, was for a sentence. Syntax when using few. What if it is a question, right? If you want to say for whom is the gift, right? So where becomes when. So it also has an effect. So it was like, so where is who, right? When is whom. So for whom is the gift. Few, when is das Geschenk. So few, what comes after few will be in accusative case. So few where in accusative becomes few when. Notice when I say this one, I don't emphasize the R part. So I say few where. Few where. I don't say few where. You can say emphasize the R part. It's just that I think we had this in the last session. Whenever a word ends in R or ER, you don't say emphasize the R part. Okay, you just, even if you want to read, you will read it as a. Okay, so few vein is das Geschenk. Syntax, I think you know this. So second position, the verb first position, you normally you have the W word, but here you have few and W word. Okay, W word is in accusative form. Then let's look at all the personal pronomen. So here you have all the personal pronomen in nominative case. Here you have all the personal pronomen in accusative case. So ich, mich, du, dich, er, ihn, sie. So here there is a change, here there is a change. So it's not equal to, not equal to. Here it's not equal to. It's the same, it's the same, same, right? But here it is not same. So you just remember 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This 5 you have to learn. Just one more thing, like why is this happen? Because whenever you're using these, so these are usually in the subject, you know, I do this, you do this, right? But you also say him, like his, her, right? So that's why you will be using, so these are pronouns but in accusative, like when they are subject or when they are objects in a sentence. So of course it cannot remain ish, right? It will be mish. Okay, please learn this table. Also just want to give you a trick. I mean, after 2 weeks you don't have to remember this table because it will be so obvious to you, because you would have done so much homework that you don't have to think, you know, what is ish in accusative or what is mish in nominative. But because right now you're learning, let's say if you learn this for the first time, you can do it very soft, like there are very many ways to remember this table, you know, or how you try to remember it. So you can learn it like ish in nominative becomes mish in accusative, do in nominative becomes tish in accusative, or s remains s in accusative as well. Or you can just try to sing it, you know, by singing. You can say ich mich tu dich in sie es wir uns ihr euch sie ich mich tu dich in sie es. This is what I'm trying to say. You can do it differently. Of course you can just learn it the normal way, ich mich du dich. Then also what I want to tell you is that because I want you to start journaling in German, so when you journal, so let's say the first thing that we do in the morning is that we get up, then most of us do breakfast, and then you may go to office or you may start working from office or from home. So you can say ich stehe auf, ich frühstücke, ich gehe ins Büro. But if you want to make it a little bit better sounding, so you can say I wake up, then I eat breakfast, after that I go to office. So you can use this conjunctions or connectors, dann, danach. They make it sound better. Okay, notice when you use dann, danach, the verb is over here and the subject gets pushed after the verb. Okay, here the verb, the subject was before the verb. Also just want to tell you, because even though this is A1, I still want you to, you know, like I want that once you're done with A1, you should be specialized in A1 level. What do I mean by that? So there are two verbs, aufstehen. Before I go there, please notice here aufstehen is a verb, and so you only conjugate the stehen part. Auf is the prefix, so it is at the last position. Now coming back to the topic, so aufstehen, aufwecken. You might think of both the meanings as the same, so but there is a difference. So aufwecken the first thing that happens in the morning or whenever after you are done sleeping is that you open your eyes, right? So you wake up, right? That means aufwecken. Aufstehen means to get up, okay? But people use no, instead of saying ich wecke auf, normally in spoken language they say ich stehe auf, when do you wake up? But I want you to know this. Also, if you know this, you will also know what is a wecker. If you are using your phone in German language, so you will see this wecker. It means alarm. Okay, please. Let's also, I told you for now you should only focus on present tense, but I told you I will ask you to remember, like learn past forms of some of the verbs, and those two important verbs are sein and haben. So you know sein is bin, ich bin, du bist, er ist, sie es ist, ihr seid, and for the other three is sind. And you have habe, hast, hat, habt, haben. But in Präteritum, so please learn this. So this ich bin means I am, ich war means I was. You are, you were. He is, he was. She is, she was. It is, it was. You are, you were. Okay, please learn this because you will use this quite often, and that's why you should learn the Präteritum. Präteritum, you can think it of as past, okay, but past you can do it two ways. Don't remember this, but just so that you have heard of it, there are two ways to frame sentences in past tense in German. One is using Partizip zwei. You will know this later, and the other one is Präteritum. So these are Präteritum. So just want to say that yes. So now there is no mistake in it, there is not modal verb. So what I want to do with the help of this slide is that I want to tell you what all you can do after 6 sessions only. So what you can do, you can talk about, if someone asks you what did you do today, so you can actually say everything that you like at this time I wake up, at this time I do that, at this time I go to bed. You can say all of that just after 6 sessions. Check. If you want to say I wake up, so you will say ich stehe auf. If you want to say I wake up at 8, then you will say 8 Uhr, right? Then you want to say I work, so you will say ich arbeite. But if you want to say I work from 9 to 1:30, so you will say von 9 Uhr bis 33 Uhr arbeite ich. Then if you want to say from 2 to 6 I continue working, then you will say arbeite ich weiter. Again, notice weiterarbeiten is a trennbare verb. Okay, and so on. For example, you can say es endet normalerweise gegen 7:30 Uhr. So I believe you have been making, I think we'll go into this. What is normalerweise? It's an adjective and it means normally or usually. Okay, so you can say es endet 7:30 Uhr. For example, here I mean the German sessions that we had for the last batch. So that was from 6:30 to 7:30. So es endet normalerweise gegen around 7:30. Then you can say gegen 11 Uhr gehe ich ins Bett. Gegen 11:30 Uhr schlafe ich ein. Okay. All right. Also, what I want to say is that, so you have schlafen, right? It means to sleep. Then if you add this ein to it, einschlafen, it still means sleep. But it actually means a little bit, there is a subtle difference. So schlafen means to sleep. Einschlafen means to fall asleep. Right? So you're saying at 11 I go to bed. After half an hour, like after using phone, Instagram, I fall asleep. That's why einschlafen. Okay? This is why I want you to, from this A1 itself start, but this is what I mean. After A1 sessions, you should be specialized in A1. Okay, so please, whenever you see a verb from now, just check in lego.org how many different prefixes can you use with it and how the meaning changes. Then you also have verschlafen. Right, just want to say verschlafen. Don't think I can give you the exact English word for this, but it means let's say you had to wake up at 8 because you had a meeting at 9 and you did not, you just kept sleeping. that will be, you were asleep till I believe 9:30. So it will verschlafen. I hope I'm not making a mistake. Verschlafen. Okay, I will have to check, but I think that's what it means. Also, let's just, when we're talking about trennbare verb, so you also have ausschlafen. This means to sleep well, or to sleep, you had your full night's sleep. It's again trennbare verb. Let's look at some examples, guys. This was homework. We will go through it. So you by now, you in your list, in your homework German vocabulary notebook, you have, what study means, how to say study, learn, jog, walk, run, eat, read, sleep, write, speak, commute, drive, drink in German. So you know the German verbs. And then you learned last week how the modal verben, so if you just know the verb for study, that is studieren or lernen. Okay, study is actually, uh, it means to study, learn is lernen. And so, but if you know the modal verb, you can say 5 6 different things, right? I can study, I want to study, I must study, I'm allowed to study, I should study. Okay, let's look at that. So how you can do this is, so because I'm using modal verb, we will only conjugate the modal verb. The other verb will be in its infinitive form, right? So swim is schwimmen. I'll just give the German words: studieren, lernen, joggen, laufen, rennen, essen, lesen, schlafen, schreiben, sprechen, pendeln, fahren, trinken. Kann, will, muss, darf, soll, mag. Okay, ich. The reason I also, so this is how you can, do your homework. You don't have to write, so when you're practicing different verbs, you don't have to, normally how this is how we practice, right? So we learn a verb, right? Then we write a sentence, like, so that we remember how to use the verb. But here, just one sentence, and you learned how many different verbs? 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9 10, I believe more than 10 15 20, at least 13, right? So that's how you can learn, like learn 13 verbs and just write one sentence to remember all these verbs. This is why I gave you this homework. Then he, she. So again, because you're using modal verb, here you will get the same things. So in infinitive form, because you are using he, she, or it, so it will be er, sie, es. But the modal verb may change depending on what kind of a modal verb it is. Let's see if it changes. So no, there is no change. So what about they? So they is actually small sz. Okay, but here, because it will be at the first, like just after full stop, the sentence starts with z, so s will be capital. And of course, this time the modal verb will change. So how does it change? So sie wollen, können, wollen, müssen, dürfen, sollen. Notice, like to, you can say mögen, or you can say also say möchten. Okay, you, so you, there are 4 u's in German. I hope you know which ones they are. So you just have the z one, that is, this means this is always formal, right, when we're using capital SZ. And this can mean 2 things. One that is also always is common is that you're always being formal. And the 2 variations are, you are being formal to 1 person, you are being formal to 2 people. So directly talking to more than 1 person or just 1 person. Okay, but the verb the modal verb, it's in its infinitive form. Then the other one can be do, meaning you're talking to just 1 person, but you can be informal with your colleague, with your friend. And here we have kannst, willst, muss, darfst, sollst, möchtest, magst. You, ihr means more than 1 person, but informal. Okay. Könnt, wollt, müsst, dürft, solltet, möchtet, mögt. If there is a mistake, please let me know, guys. I like the film. Why do I have this example? Is that to tell you, you can use the modal verb mögen without any other verb. Also, you can use this modal verb wollen, right? When you just want to say, I like this, I want this, When you want to say, I like this, you can say mögen. When you want to say, I want this, you can say wollen. So to say, I like something, I like this. So ich mag, and what comes after mag will be in Akkusativ. So Film becomes der Film, becomes den Film. Series, die Serie, den Mann, die Frau, den Junge, das Mädchen, die Wohnung. I don't like, what you have to do is just add the word nicht at the end. Okay. I cannot come tomorrow. So you know how to say I come. So you will say ich komme. How do you say I come tomorrow? Ich komme morgen. If you want to say I can come, ich kann kommen, or ich kann lernen, ich kann laufen, joggen. Sorry, run will be rennen, walk will be laufen, right? So let's see how you can do all of this. So of course, for I it's ich, for he is er, she, sie, it es, wir, they, sie. You can be du or sie. Can, you will say kann, and then you will say tomorrow, morgen, and then you have the nicht. Okay, ich kann morgen nicht lernen, rennen, joggen, laufen. Of course, you might hear in movies or sometimes people say ich kann nicht morgen. It's also correct, but the way it is said, it means something different. For now, when you are using this nicht, when you are negating the modal verb, if there happens to be another adjective, so you do it after the adjective, right? So ich kann morgen nicht kommen. If you want to say ich kann like yesterday, like or like day after tomorrow, so ich kann übermorgen nicht lernen. Day after tomorrow. I don't like any film. So if you want to hear any, right? So any, there is a difference. Any will you will have to use Negationsartikel, right? No film, So ich mag. If you just had to say I like the film, you can say ich mag den Film. If you want to say I don't like this film, then you will say ich mag diesen Film nicht. But here you are saying I don't like any film, so it will be Negationsartikel. So ich mag keinen, because film is so here all the objects are in accusative case, and film becomes keinen because it's masculine. Serie, it's still e because it is feminine. Man because masculine, so en. Again, I hope you never have to say all of these examples in real life, but you can use better examples. What I'm trying to do is that explain you with simple sentences the grammar. Then the reason I have this example is there are many reasons, but one reason is that let's see how you can use. So one reason is that you know how to use modal verb with a verb, and then you know how to use possessive article, right? Let's look at that. So you can say kann ich object, and the other verb will be at the last position in its infinitive form, right? So kann ich. Then here you will have so Fahrrad is das Fahrrad, so dein Fahrrad. Auto is das Auto, so dein Auto. Wasserkocher, that is kettle, so it will be deinen because it is masculine. Okay. What also I want to tell you is that, so you know leihen, right? It means to borrow. There are other verbs which also mean leihen. So there is this verb ausleihen. They both mean the same thing. It's a trennbare verb, guys. So when you use ausleihen, aus will be separated. It's a separable prefix. They both mean the same thing, but as I said, I want you to be experts in A1 level German. So what will happen is that if someone asks you, what is the difference between leihen and ausleihen? You don't know what will ask you, but they will notice how you are using them. So leihen normally is informal, is used in informal scenarios. Ausleihen is used in formal scenarios. So first difference is, so again, I'm saying all of this from my personal experience, okay? So this is formal, this is informal. Also, if you don't want to, if this is confusing, so what is formal, what is informal? Also, you can think whenever money is involved, right? Whenever money is involved, you use ausleihen. So whenever money is involved, you use ausleihen. Whenever there is no money involved, you use leihen. Example. So can I borrow? For example, borrowing car from a friend. Usually there is no money involved, right? So that you can use leihen. Borrowing car from a car rental agency, money is involved, of course. Then it is ausleihen. I hope you get the idea. Borrowing book from a friend, leihen. Borrowing book from a library where there is late fees, ausleihen is more correct. I hope you get the idea. Then also you will see there is this verb entleihen. Here it is not separable. Entleihen also means means to borrow, but this normally when you use this, it is not used in its verb form. It is used, so every verb can be converted to an adjective. So entleihen becomes entliehen. It means borrowed or lent out. You will see this in libraries. So what I'm trying to say is that even entleihen means to borrow, but it's never, very hardly, at least in my personal life, I've never saw someone using this. They normally use this in this format, entliehen. So it means borrowed. You'll see this when you have a library app in Germany. You'll see some books are already entliehen or bereits entliehen. Then you also have verleihen. Please find out what this means. Do you want to sell your bicycle? So again, I want you to exercise like want to will be wollen or möchten, sell will be verkaufen. Okay, so you know kaufen, which means to buy, and you have verkaufen. So it still contains kaufen, but then ver, is it a trennbare verb or not trennbare verb? It is not a trennbare verb. How do I know this? I know it. You should know it, or now you will know it. So verkaufen means to sell. Also, you will be practicing possessive article, right? So here it will be accusative case. So when masculine, you will have deinen. When feminine, you will have deiner. When plural or feminine, you will have deiner. When it is neutral, you will have just dein or mine. So without the a or n. So here are the answers, guys. Please go through them. Okay, why do I always write full stop when I have to write question mark? Okay, one more time. You only conjugate the modal verb. The other verb, it's in infinitive form at the last position. So I want to bother you a little bit because I asked you to do this homework. Every day you should buy, if you're not, please buy a notebook. It's like a physical notebook, not something on your tablet. And every day each page you should divide, one page you should divide in 4 columns, 4 sections. In the first section you should write new nouns that you used, or it can be the same nouns that you use every day, new verbs, new adjectives, adverbs, and any new phrases or anything that you think is of use. For example, set.b, okay, it is a short form for zum Beispiel. Okay, why it's zum, so zum is actually zu plus dem, and why is it like that? Don't worry, just remember zum Beispiel. And I'm also a big fan of, so that I believe that people who are willing to learn German should start speaking in Denglish. This is English plus German, Denglish. So why is that? What I'm saying is that whenever we're speaking English with your German colleagues or people who speak German, whenever you want to, even though you are talking in English, okay, whenever you want to say, for example, don't say for example, say zum Beispiel. That's it. It might sound funny to you, but just start adding German words to whenever you are speaking English. Okay, when, for example, then this Künstig teuer. You know, whenever you are talking in English, and if you want to say it is costly, you will say it is teuer. When you want to say it is not expensive, you will say it is günstig. Start adding German words, using German words when you're speaking English. Schön is usually good or pretty or beautiful. Glücklich is lucky or happy. No, so yeah, and unglücklich is unhappy. Okay, let's look at some more examples. So kennenlernen. Okay, kennenlernen is a trennbare verb, so you know lernen is to learn. Kennenlernen is to get to know someone. Okay, the object is a person. Abschließen is to finish. Okay, you know schließen, right? It means to close. Abschließen can be used in different ways. One famous scenario is that when you finish your master's or bachelor's, you say du hast dein Master or Bachelor abgeschlossen. Okay, then you have legen, liegen. You have besuchen, anfangen, beginnen. Yeah, please go through this list. Please, before trying to Google or using in DO.org or app, checking what the meaning is, try to guess what the meaning can be. Okay, try to guess what the meaning can be, and then check how different was your guess from the actual meaning. Sometimes it can be very close. Okay, so for example, this will be, bureau. This bureau, you think it should be obvious. Bureau, university, school, firm, business or company, Geld. So this is not gold, this means money. Okay, also in informal situations people refer to money as Kohle. Cola. In German, in English, we say, right, how many bucks do you have? How much do you have? Some $5 for me. So you may see in informal situations, people use cola instead of saying like euro. Vorbereitung is means to its preparation. Vergangenheit, past. Notice I don't write die Schule, I just write e. Don't write das Büro, I just write s. This helps me. I mean, this tells me, I don't write that, I just write er, so art. This helps me tell which is masculine, which is feminine, which is plural. Okay, please go through this list. Please try to guess the meaning and then check the correct meaning in leo.org. Okay. All right. Also, maybe before I continue, I want to just point out this. So you have the verb lernen, you have the verb studieren. In English, we say I am studying physics. So it can mean that physics is the major, but it can also mean at that moment you are studying physics, right? So when you want, let's say, if you are learning something which is not the entire, which is not describe your entire major or masters, then don't use studieren, use lernen. Use studieren only want to say when you're talking about your major, what you are majoring in, then you use studieren. Okay. For example, right now through in this session you are not so if you say ich lerne Deutsch, right? If you say ich studiere Deutsch, the meaning changes. You may not feel it, a German speaker will feel it. So studiere Deutsch will mean that you are majoring, like you like German is what you are researching upon, it is your major. Lerne Deutsch means to learn, so you are learning Deutsch, you are not. So du lernst Deutsch und du studierst Deutsch gerade nicht, is what I'm trying to say. All right, please do this homework. Why is this homework important? As I said, be selfish when you're learning German. You don't have to learn words, vocabulary that are not relevant for your life. So please see if you can find the words, nouns for friends, relatives, parents, siblings. I believe these people are relevant. How to say siblings in German. Children, if you have news, movies, series, season, of course it has become very important. People watch Netflix quite a lot. So if you want to talk about which series, or if you want to ask them which series are you watching, or which season are you on right now, how do you say that? Of course, only if you know the German word. Advertisement, Anzeige, job requirements. How do you say all of these things? Microphone, speaker. If you're working, you are using this, every day. Know the German word for them. Salary is also insurance. How to say all of this in German? Another homework is that, so I think you wrote your daily schedule as part of previous homeworks. Now you will repeat the same homework, but you should make it more detailed, right? You should add modal Verben and trennbare verb. So I don't know if you already wrote I wake up, but if you want to write wake up, you will have to use trennbare verb, right? Either aufwecken or aufstehen. Also add modal Verben. So every day there are things that we like to do, and there are things that we have to do. Things that you like to do, please use möchten. Things that you have to do, please use müssen. Then, yeah, I don't think you have to do this homework. You can leave it, but maybe you can do it, but it's not that important. Please see if you can follow this advice. If you do this, I'm ready to help you. All right. No, I mean, it's all complimentary. I will help you, and if you do this, I promise. I mean, not promise, but I think your journey in becoming a fluent German speaker will be much, much faster than any other guy who doesn't follow this advice. It is my belief, again, no guarantee, but I think this is very efficient, this process. Yes, so the sessions of, even I think you know this because you're attending the session, so it's on Tuesday, and every Tuesday, Friday from 5:30 to 6:30. Sometimes it goes on till 7. If people have questions, if I have more examples, or if I want to focus more on the what shots that we just saw on the vocabulary. Thank you very much for listening.